It's a really unfortunate time when things happen here on the continent of Africa that make their way to other parts of the world, encouraging fear, encouraging hesitation, encouraging doubt. Um, it's a problem. And while I value life, I value the lives of Black women, Black men, and Black children. I value the lives of humans. No one ever deserves to be brutally hurt, um, taken out, deleted, and I send and share the highest vibrations of love and peace and joy and understanding and clarity to those that have lost their loved ones. Um, Recently, years ago, decades ago, that is still dealing with a level of grief. In this video specifically, I want to address the concern of whether Africa is safe for Black single women. So welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley. On my channel, Ashley in Africa, I talk about my experience of living and doing business here on the continent of Africa. I've lived in 2 countries in Africa. I currently live in South Africa, and prior to this, I was in Tanzania. And I am a single woman, a single mother, originally from the US, and I made the move nearly 3.5 years ago. And so if this video resonates with you or you find value in it, please be sure to like this video and share it with someone else who would also find value in it. So thank you for watching. Thank you for engaging me in the comments about this. However, the way that I was engaged in the comments about this, I felt was through a lens of fear. And so I want to give a backstory of myself. I know we are growing as a community, and many people, when they come onto videos, don't necessarily know the journey. And so in this video, I'm going to share a bit of my journey. I was born in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, and have lived in metropolitan urban cities my entire life. I've lived in Boston, Massachusetts. I've lived in Atlanta, Georgia. I've lived in Miami, Florida. I've lived in Manhattan, New York, and traveled extensively to, Chicago, Illinois, Los Angeles, California, and everywhere in between. My background is I started working in the music industry at 15 years old, working street team, working with a lot of people as the youngest woman in the organization. At the time, I worked for Def Jam Records at 14 as a high school representative. At the time, this was like 2000s. High school, physical CDs were still a thing. Promotional items were still a thing. Posters, flyers, t-shirts, hats. And I used to distribute those things at high school football games, track meets in Miami. So if you know anything about Miami, 305, Dade County, you know that Miami is a huge place for high school football, track, and everything entertainment. So I was already exposed to a certain elevated lifestyle, also very, I'd say, suspect. Like a lot of people in the music industry, as we are seeing today, are being uncovered, being exposed about bad practices, explicit practices. And I was exposed to that at a very young age, not necessarily completely thrown in, but I saw a lot happen, and I saw a lot that didn't happen. I didn't see a lot of things, but it taught me very early on to adjust and to act accordingly and to listen and to observe and to analyze. And I took that experience into university, had a full ride at Florida State University. And from that experience, I knew I wanted to engage with brands, and I wanted to essentially have a certain lifestyle and have the dream jobs, and I had that, and I enjoyed that. And I worked in the music industry, I worked in the sports industry, I worked in the beverage industry, the luxury beverage industry, the beauty industry. All of these industries came with a very elevated lifestyle, but also a lot of explicit things. And so being exposed to those things, you learn a level of discernment, you learn a level of street credibility. So, and also like street knowledge and critical thinking. And, you know, I was a young person moving in this industry, traveling to different countries by myself, traveling to cities by myself, moving to cities by myself without my family. So these are skills that are intangible, but in moments where we're talking about safety and your ability to maneuver and move around, it matters. And so I'm giving a bit of that context because I was not a person who had come to the continent of Africa and didn't have global travel experience, didn't have domestic travel experience, and didn't have solo travel experience. I had all of those things and more, and had been in rooms with, you know, billionaires, millionaires, very powerful people. And so when you have that level of awareness and you know how to make those type of moves, I think you essentially move different. So I recognize that this may not be your story. It probably isn't your story, but it doesn't mean that you should be discouraged from taking the bold action if your heart is telling you and if you have a level of desire to maneuver and move to the continent of Africa. So all of that said, is Africa safe for single Black women? For me, I've never felt safer. But I move different, and I recognize that. I am not a woman that is in the street all the time. I am not at the grooves, as we say in South Africa. I am not at vibes. I am not catching vibes. I'm not here as a tourist. I'm here to establish myself personally, professionally, and I'm here to integrate and find a home. This is where I want to live. This is where I want to be. So I am not spending time out in the streets all the time. Do I go out? Absolutely. Do I enjoy myself? Absolutely. And you absolutely can do that. But I will say that I experienced, close friends, relatives even, that spent a lot of time living as a tourist, saying that they had an intention to settle, but their safety was put at risk. When you're out and about and when you're exposed, we already stand out. We already, with our voice, with our accent, are immediately available, or immediately we attract a level of attention, right? And so do what you want. You're grown, right? But for me, I am not a person that is checking for the weekend, every weekend, or a day party or a weekday party. Do I have my times where I like to turn up? Absolutely, I do. But being out and about all the time, especially in your first year of trying to migrate to a country, it is so important to just chill, okay? Like chill, find your space, find your center, remember, return to self, because the reality is that we're coming from a lot in the West. Some of us are essentially escaping the toxic environments, the toxic relationships, the toxic society. And for many of us, we're not doing that. But for me, in my case, I made a intentional, conscious decision that the environment that I had been in, as I'm sharing, right, my professional environment, my relationships, they were not in alignment with the values and the level of lifestyle that I had desired and wanted to pursue. And so when you arrive, mind your space. Find your space, right? Find your home. Find a place that feels comfortable, that isn't too drastic from the lifestyle that you've lived before, and mind that space. Settle in that, I don't want to say isolation, right? But there is a level of isolation that is required. You're now in a new environment, in a new country. There's a lot of adjustment that needs to happen. You need to hear from God in those times. whether it's God, whether it's spirit, the universe, ancestors, or a combination of all of the above. You need to have the time to hear. And so I also am aware of, the ease of being able to do the Airbnb lifestyle. And I did that. And I absolutely recommend that to people that I work with, is to book yourself an Airbnb for at least 30 days or a hotel for 30 days so that you can mind your space, so you can return and remember. And then from there, get out, hustle, and find where you're supposed to be. That is more important than everything and anything else, in my opinion, as a single woman who also has children. It was important for me to find a space and a home that I could settle myself and settle my children so that we had a level of stability and just like grounding, right? And so that's really, really important, especially as a single woman. Now, the next thing is to create community, right? So after you come out of that, make sure that you create community, that you find community that you can trust, and that may take some time, right? It may take some time, but I have learned that on this journey, I have been extremely open. I've been extremely vulnerable. Even with this YouTube channel, right? I am extremely open and vulnerable. And that's a whole nother part that I'm gonna get into, which is literally the last thing that I'll talk about, the second to last thing. So stay tuned. And if this is valuable, please like this video. But yeah, create a community so that they can tap into you. A lot of the African countries, right, or anywhere that you go, there are expat communities. I am not the first that has made this move, and I won't be the last. And there are people that have forged the way. They may not be on YouTube, but there are communities on Facebook. You can get in WhatsApp communities. You can go to expat events, but check in with some people that can check in with you. And that's really, really important. And I've done that here in South Africa. I did that in Tanzania. It was a little hectic, and that's another video, but I did that as a single woman, creating community with other women and families and couples, right, that can check in on you. And this is really the thing, as I talk about being open and vulnerable, this is a very feminine energy that you see today, right? I am in my divine feminine energy. And also I recognize the importance of the masculine energy that I still operate in as well, as a person that has come here for business opportunities, economic opportunities, that is a provider for my family. I am those things. And so that is a part of masculine energy as well, but also very feminine. And that openness, that vulnerability, has allowed me to become the healer, the feeler, and the teacher that I'm becoming and that I am, in, and to shed some of that energy that I brought with me from the US. As Black women in America, especially as single women, we have had to be in our masculine energy, our doer energy. The way we speak, the way we talk to people, the way I used to talk to people, the way I used to talk to men, the way I used to talk to my children, the way I used to talk to myself. Now, when I think back about it, I cringe, because I would never talk to my man that way. I would never talk to my children that way. I would never talk to my friends that I care and love that way. But that was something that I had to shed once getting here. And so, I am giving and sharing peace and love and the highest vibration of joy with the people that have passed on and have gone into the ancestral realm, their families, offering and extending love, and that they find peace in this really difficult time. And I also, in respect of these passed on sisters, am not here to criticize. And because of that, I recognize that there is so much work to be done when we arrive. Before we arrive, while we're here, and as we continue to assimilate and integrate into our society, and how we talk to others and how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to our men, how we talk to the local indigenous African people and about them is so powerful. The words that we say, the tone that we use, the energy that we give is exactly the energy that we will get in return. And so no one's life should ever be taken brutally, viciously, through acts of domestic violence, any type of violence. I don't condone that. And I am empathetic and sympathetic for the lives of women that have been lost, but also the lives of women and men that are being taken just ignorantly every day, globally. But when we're coming into question of whether this is a place that is for us because we're single and lack the protection of a man, I offer you and invite you to look at where we come from. And are we feeling protected there? Are you protecting women there? Are you actively protecting those Black women there? I offer you and invite you to think of that. Because as a Black woman in America, I can't say that I felt that level of protection there. Not by the men in my life. And I'm not saying, anything bad about those men, but I think just the way that we operate as individualistic people, it's so easy to say, oh, don't go over there, they're not without protection. But the reality is, in the US is an individualistic place. It is a narcissistic, self-centered society, because in order to survive it, you must think about you and yours. And that's okay if that is in alignment with your values. But I find it very interesting to say, oh, well, don't go over there without protection, because the reality is, there's not necessarily the strongest level of protection that side. Black women are being abducted every day. Black women are losing their lives every day in their relationships, in their marriages. And that's also happening this side. And it's not perfect. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I am saying that we should not be discouraged based on micro issues, because the macro issue that we're dealing with is far worse. And at least it was for me. And this was not someone who was struggling. This is not someone who was, not enterprising. It was someone or lacked a level of education, right? I decided and desired to live a life that I could choose. And so if you're a single Black woman and you have a desire to move to the continent, have discernment. There are key things that you must do in order to make that journey possible. I'm also going to, do another video on that, or the safest places to go. I'm not sure that it's a rural area in a village where you don't speak the native language. That's probably not the best decision to make. It's probably not the best decision to come immediately looking for a partner. That's probably not the best idea. And on this part of, the fact that there aren't available, healthy, successful men on the continent, I don't know about y'all, but that for me has not been an issue. And yes, I lived in Tanzania for 2 years. I knew immediately when I was there that my husband was not in Tanzania, but there were a lot of different things that led me to where I am now. But the intellectual connection and the cultural connection was really important to me. And I found that this country, South Africa, and this city specifically of Johannesburg, was a place that matched a lot of the values that I had and the lifestyle that I live. So it's all about lifestyle. It's all about the lifestyle that you want. And it is my knowing that you manifest that. And so it's just like saying all the good men are taking in the US. Like, I don't think that that's true. It's not true. And so if you have that thinking of lack or fear, that is exactly what you will attract. So yes, the single men are here on the continent. They're all over the continent. They are successful. They are available. They are loving. They are healthy. They are experienced. They are traveled, if that is what you're looking for. They're here. And so you can let limited beliefs or a limited belief system run you around this continent, or you could have a level of knowing that you have done so much work on yourself and you are welcoming and inviting in loving relationships, healthy relationships, respectful relationships that are full of love, that are full of care, that are full of compassion, that are full of juicy conversation, laughter, joy, fun, and abundance in health, finances. You can believe, and you can attract that. So is Africa safe for single Black women? Well, I feel like it's a lot safer than my home country of America that used to be a great country, and it still is. I just don't want to live there. So if you found this video valuable, it was helpful, please like it, share it with someone who finds value. And if you're interested in learning more about what life can look like for you as a single Black woman on the continent of Africa, subscribe to this channel and head to the playlist there that will help you walk through what the process and the journey look like for me, and how you can take some of those tools and apply it to yourself so that you can achieve the life of your dreams outside of the US or wherever you are, in pursuit of a life here on the continent of Africa. Thanks for watching. Until the next video, I'll see you soon.